What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. Today I want to talk to you about tractor safety. You know, I didn't grow up riding on a tractor, or I wasn't born on a tractor, so I had to learn a lot of this stuff along the way, and I wanted to share some of that with you. First up, when you're carrying a load like I just was there, full of dirt or something heavy like that, never carry it like this. It's just stupid to do that, because basically what can happen is, if suddenly you hit a big bump or something, that weight can pull that down toward the ground. You know, gravity is always against you. So that weight's trying to go back to the ground. So the best thing to do is keep it nice and low as you can, without running into stuff on the ground. But I see this over and over, especially inexperienced tractor people and equipment operators. They get on and they raise it up to the moon. It does look cool, but it can really make for a bad day. It can cause you to tip over if you're on like a hill or something, or you suddenly get into a low spot. Maybe the ground gives way underneath you, because this tractor's heavy, and suddenly that left front gives, and now all of a sudden it's out of balance. That can cause you to either tip down, nose down, or flip all the way over, and that would totally ruin your day. So most likely I'm going to have to turn this off so you guys will be able to hear me, but I wanted to try this with the engine running. Just to see what it sounded like. And yeah, I'm taking a great risk here. My neighbors are out. They can probably hear that I'm making a video. It's kind of embarrassing in a weird way, even though I'm not really embarrassed by it. It's just awkward, I guess is a better way to say it. But, so anyway, this is my Mahindra 4025. It's a 41 horsepower utility tractor. So it's big and heavy. As you can see, I'm a 6 foot tall guy. So I mean, this thing, it's definitely at that point right there at the fold over of the roll bar. That's definitely higher than 6 feet. So this thing's a big beast. It's got giant tires on it. I mean, over half of my height is in these tires. So, you know, that's a pretty big deal. When the bigger it is, the, you know, bigger they are, the harder they fall type of philosophy. So, you know, you can probably get away with some stuff on a smaller tractor that you wouldn't be able to get away with on a big hoss like this, because some of those smaller tractors, the buckets are so small on them that I don't even know if you could possibly overload them. But this thing has a 6 foot wide bucket in it. It's extra big, extra deep. You know, you saw how much dirt I picked up there, and I gave the thumbs up. Well, anyway, you need to keep that in mind. The fuller you have that bucket, the more light it gets in the back wheels. The back wheel, even though my wheels are weighted and stuff, and we'll talk about that, it's one of those things that, man, you don't want this to happen to you. So if you're going to be moving dirt around, it's best to have some sort of an implement on the back. That way it just adds a little bit of weight. I like to run my brush hog on there, because my brush hog sticks out farther than anything else. But you can also buy like special carts and different things, and weight boxes and things, if that's what you want to do. You can also weight the tires, and I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that. My rear tires are loaded with something, some kind of liquid. I don't know what it is. It's a clearish sort of a liquid, and it kind of surprised me, because the first time I went to check the tires, I didn't expect that, and I had the valve stem down like this, down at the bottom, and as soon as I hit the button, of course, it, you know, the valve, it started spewing out water, and I was like, oh crap, what is this? And I, you know, again, I didn't grow up on a tractor. I wasn't born on a tractor, so I had to learn a lot of this stuff. I didn't even grow up on a farm or around a lot of that stuff, so I've had to learn along the way. You know, a lot of times, I mean, this one here cost me, back before COVID, this one cost me like $14,000, and I can only imagine it's probably gone up in value since I bought it, even though I put hours on it. Just the tractor prices themselves have gone up, so I'm guessing it's probably 18 to 20 grand now for a unit like this. And you know, most people don't want to just turn the keys over when they got $20,000 worth of equipment sitting out there to some newbie that's never run it before. And especially on a machine like this, it's got a clutch on it. I don't know, I guess you guys can't see it, but it's a manual tractor. So it's got manual gearbox, it's 4-wheel drive, but it's got a manual gearbox. And you know, with a clutch, you don't just want to let anybody drive a vehicle that has a clutch, because especially something like this, because this has a 2-stage clutch, meaning that the first half of the clutch, when you depress the pedal, that controls the transmission, you know, the power of the engine to the transmission to the drive wheels. The second stage, so you push it even farther, the other half disengages the PTO clutch. So that allows you to engage the PTO. You push it all the way in, all the way down, So through both stages, you push it really hard when you're trying to engage the PTO, and then you reach down and there's a lever over there. You flip the lever and you rev your RPMs up a little and you slowly ease out on that clutch, just like you're taking off in a car or anything else that has a clutch. You slowly ease it out so that it doesn't just suddenly slam. That way, whatever you're running in the back, you don't want to beat up your brush hog or anything like that. So just a couple of tips for you. But number two, I hear this one often. I read a lot of like tractor forums and different things like that. And I see guys bending the crap out of their front end loaders, man. It happens all the time. And almost every guy that has a little experience on tractors will come in there, and it sort of sounds demeaning. Maybe it's meant to be demeaning, I don't know, but they'll come in there and they'll tell the guy, well, you were running it like a dozer. And now let's clarify that. What exactly do they mean by that, running it like a dozer? Well, doing things that the tractor was never designed to do. So a tractor like this is not designed to go out and rip out an entire forest worth of trees with just using the front end bucket and that's it, okay? I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have. They think they're gonna get on it and they're gonna put that bucket down low, and they're gonna, maybe we're not even talking about giant trees, we're talking about smallish trees, like 4 inches or less. Maybe they've got a new growth forest that they're trying to reclaim and re-clear, right? Well, they think they're gonna get on that tractor and just doze right through it, push the blade down and push right through. Well, it probably isn't gonna work like that. Unless the trees are really small, most likely it's not gonna work that way. What I've done, and I'll take you around the front in a moment, I put some welded hooks and some rings and stuff on there to give me some different attachment points on the bucket. That way I can pull a lot of the smaller trees. Now, if it's bigger than, let's say 2 or maybe 4 inches, depends on what kind of soil it's in. If it's in sandy soil, I might try to get a 4-incher and pull it out of the ground. But if it's clay soil, then chances are it's not going to come out. So you're probably just going to end up damaging something. But when you're picking up anything, you want to try to get your weight to where both of these arms are carrying that weight, right? So if you were like pulling a tree out, you wouldn't want it on one side or the other. You want to span that. And in fact, that's one of my mistakes. I need to go back into this bucket and I need to weld a hook right in the middle so that I'll have a spot right in the middle instead of having to do weird stuff with my chain to get it to come out in the center or get the load to go on both arms. But yeah, you want to think of it like that. When you're trying to do some work, you want to try to get as much of the pressures and the forces and the torques and everything else that's going on. You want it to be on both of those arms as equal as you can keep it, right? It's not always going to be equal, of course, because, that's the way dirt is, but it's just one of those things. You hear guys all the time, they're talking about they bent their front end loader, and I've seen some really bad ones where they're bent so bad that these arms are just basically wasted. Or another thing they do is they blow out or bend these hydraulic, not shocks, what do they call cylinders? Hydraulic cylinders here. Either these or the front ones there are the most common ones to bend. And here in a minute, we'll talk about how that happens. But yeah, just keep in mind. So number one, keep loads low. Like I was saying, it'll just make your life a lot better. Really, you don't want to be driving around with the bucket up at the moon anyway, up at 12 o'clock, You really don't want to do that unless there's a specific reason, like maybe you're getting a pallet off of a shelf and you've got pallet forks, or maybe you've got your wife up in the bucket and you're trying to do some tree trimming and stuff like that. Probably not recommended for newbies, but I have done it myself and it does work. You can get your wife up there quite high. It's just not very even. So I want to make a little basket where I can, like a man basket out of an IBC tote and a pallet fork or something. That way I can raise my wife up nice and level and she'll have a cage around her. Or maybe she could even raise me up. But see, she's intimidated by this big beast. She won't hardly even mess with it. Honestly, I think I got her to set on it once, and she'll go right around the property sitting up on the fender with me. But she does not even have any interest in trying to learn to drive it. There's a lot going on when you've got a manual tractor and you've got implements engaging the ground, especially. And when I say that, I mean even like brush hogs, and when you're doing dirt work and stuff like that, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that can go wrong real fast. And I wanted to give you guys these tips. Number 3, don't overload your front end loader, or FEL as they call it. So if you're new, you may not have heard that, but you'll see a lot of that in the forums. They abbreviate a lot of things and they call it like a FEL for front end loader. ROPS, rollover protection system. That's what this is, and mine's folded down. Now, I don't know how many of you guys noticed, but really, if I wanted to be a real stickler about it, I should not have engaged that dirt over there on camera, especially with my bar folded down like this. But you know, I'm comfortable enough on it that I know I'm not going to flip it over doing what I was doing just then. But if you're not comfortable with it, you're not used to it and accustomed to the functions and mainly how to stop it, mainly how to get the bucket down when you get into an emergency and things like that, how to drop your 3-point real quick if you have to, if something happens, or how to shut your PTO off if you need to really quickly, if you're doing some brush hogging. Those are all really important things that you're going to have to just spend some seat time and, you know, try to get good at it. You know, I'm one of these people, I can drive pretty much everything. In fact, I think if the pilot, you know, had a heart attack in a 747, I could probably land the damn thing. I'm that kind of guy, but not everybody's like that. I see people that have owned tractors for years that don't have the finesse that you need to operate the front end loader to where, you know, I mean, I'm not the best, obviously. I didn't grow up on one, but I can pick up like a beer can off the ground with the front end loader or something. I can do some very precise work with that from the seat of this tractor because I've spent enough time on it. But I've been around other people and been involved in loading up trailers and stuff where they had stuff on the front end loader. And I said, all right, ease it down, ease it forward or whatever. And they did not ease it. They almost run me over. They almost dropped something on me. So it's one of those things that, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of seat time, and you can lose that skill if you don't hone it and, you know, practice at it enough. So next up on the list, number 4. Okay, I'm probably going to have to start the tractor back up to show you this thoroughly, but don't back drag with the bucket tilted down. And let me start it up and I'll show you why. Okay, so when you have your bucket tilted down like that and you're doing what they call back dragging, that's usually after you've already moved some gravel or some dirt and you're trying to smoothen it out and make it look nicer, right? And it is true that if you do it the right way and if you're in fine enough material, like soft enough material like sand or really soft loose dirt or something like that, you can probably get away with a little bit of this. This is a rather extreme example of that because I want to show you guys, you know, what can actually happen if you hit something really hard. But inevitably that's what's going to happen. You know, you're backing up, you're going back and forth, you're doing a lot of that, and you kind of get stuck into like a cruise control mode. And if you miss it and you hit something really hard suddenly and it catches that, it's going to bend some stuff, it's going to break some stuff on your maybe your bucket. It might break, you know, there's no telling where it'll break. Most likely it'll bend your cylinder rods out of alignment, and then you'll never be able to raise it back up until you get your cylinders rebuilt. And I've heard that's quite expensive, so I don't want to find out about it. But yeah, number 4, don't back drag with your bucket tilted down like this, especially when you're new, okay? I know you see guys doing it. Maybe you see them doing it on a skid steer or something. Well, let me tell you something. Skid steers are built a little bit different than tractors are. Notice how much closer a skid steer bucket is to the tractor. So there's not as long of arms out there, not as much leverage, not as much capability for that torque to transfer into the arms and break something. So that's why you have to treat a tractor a little bit more delicately. Now, am I saying, you know, never do anything hardcore with it? No, I do hardcore stuff with this all the time, but I try to keep it within its limits, okay? So you don't want to do that. And in fact, let me climb down there and I'll show you a close-up of what can happen. Make sure you guys see that well. Okay, you see as the bucket is tilted down like that, how much of this piston rod is exposed. The farther out that rod is, the weaker it is, okay? It's stronger when it's closer in, when that is closer in and the bucket is tilted up more. And again, it doesn't mean never, ever, ever under any circumstances can you do it. There are a couple of circumstances you can do it. And actually, now that I'm off the tractor, that doesn't look as severe as it did when I was on the tractor. But that's still more severe than I would ever back drag. You can get a little bit of angle on it. And maybe you guys, again, I'm assuming you guys are noobs here, so you probably don't know a lot of this stuff. If you do know this stuff, you know, hey, that's cool. I'm glad you know stuff. But a lot of people don't, so try not to be a jerk in the comments and say stuff like, oh, everybody knows that. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be driving a tractor. Bullshit. I didn't know any of this stuff until I got one, okay? And I'm a mechanical guy. I know a lot of things. It's what I do. Anyway, there's a spot right here that's like a guide, I guess we'll say. Oh, crap. You guys okay? Just totally lost you there. Camera fell over. Let's try that again. See if I can zoom in on that thing. Okay. This thing's just trying to fall over on me no matter which way I put him. I think my tripod may be getting worn out. If you guys want to help me get a new tripod, maybe like it, share it, subscribe it, all that stuff. That'll help me out, man. I tell you, here lately, YouTube's been putting the hurt on me. They're not showing my videos to people, so I need your help. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe, share it with other people. All that stuff helps out to defeat the super uber globalist liberal algorithm. But that's what we got to fight. Anyway, you see that little bump right there, I guess we'll call it, that little almost a S-curve or something. I don't know what to call the damn thing, but look at this. I'll just point to it. All right. See this thing right here? When that is in alignment with this, the bucket is perfectly flat. And if it's out of adjustment or something, you could probably make an adjustment, but on my tractor, it came with this thing. It's like a guide or something, or an indicator. And so that's one way you can tell when you're on the seat, because I'll tell you the truth, when you're new and it's your first time running a tractor, that's going to feel pretty intimidating when you're trying to figure out what angle your bucket is at currently. So let's see here. I guess we covered that. Don't back drag with bucket tilted down. All right, and so next up here, we're going to talk about side hills. Real quick story. I had an uncle years ago, my Uncle Bud, and the story that I was told was that at one point my Uncle Bud was driving a tractor. It didn't have ROPS or any of that stuff. It probably didn't even have a front end loader on it. It was probably just a regular field tractor. And it might have been, I don't know for sure, it might have been one of the tricycle kind. Because remember back in the old days, they had them tricycle jobs that had like the two wheels, like a row crop tractor. That way you could go down the rows without disturbing the whole thing. Well, anyway, it was something like that, or an older tractor, let's just put it that way. He probably didn't have his wheels weighted right. I don't know what he did wrong, but he rolled the thing over, and for the rest of his life, he walked with a terrible, I mean, he's pretty much crip walking before that was a thing. So, yeah, thanks to Uncle Bud, I know better than to, you know, roll over a tractor. I certainly don't want to, you know, have to walk like that and have people think I'm in a gang or something. So anyway, if you do a few of these things and you take your time and you're careful about it and you look at these side hills before you approach them, and especially guys, if you've got weight in the bucket, that changes everything. The dynamics of the tractor are one way when you have like a brush hog on it in the back and nothing in the front. But if you suddenly got a bucket load of dirt and that same brush hog in the back or whatever, whether you're running it or not, and you go down a side hill that's a little too steep, guess what? It's going to tip you over. It's going to ruin your day. If you're not wearing your seatbelt, you might get pinched in between the fenders and the ground somehow. So you better tuck in or bail off, one or the other, and you better get the hell out of the way, because that's a big old heavy thing right there. This one weighs around 7,000 pounds, and I feel every bit of it when I load it on the trailer every single time. And in fact, as I'm thinking about it, I've had so many issues loading this thing. It's so stressful to me. I may have to do a separate video about how to safely load a really heavy tractor like this onto a standard 18-foot equipment trailer, because it's still sketchy, man. It's every time I do it, something goes awry, and I'm like, oh God. One time I popped the daggum thing off the ball somehow. Oh, I remember what I did. I wasn't watching close enough, and I put a 2-inch ball, and that trailer over there takes like a 2 5/8. Well, that was enough that it popped. As soon as I got that front end weight up on that trailer, it acted like a giant catapult. And thank God my wife was standing clear. She was watching me up front. She could have been standing on that tongue or in between the tongue and the truck, and it could have killed her. Okay, so this is serious stuff. When you're messing with this, you do not want to take it for granted. You want to do the right thing and make sure that you're being safe with the equipment, yourself, and the people around you. I think we covered that pretty well. Be careful on side hills. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're driving this way like the tractor's facing and there's a hill like this or like that, you know, be really careful on that. You can get away with more if you're going up and down them, right? But if you're going sideways on them, just be more careful with that, because bad crap can happen really fast. Okay, next up, keep it tight. And what do I mean by that? Well, these tractors vibrate like crazy. And, you know, like this one here, it was made in India. A lot of the newer Mahindras are made in, I don't know if it's China or Indonesia or Taiwan, I don't know, but they're not made in India anymore. And this one was based on an old international model. That's one of the reasons I bought it, is that it's basically an international style. I'm sure they changed some things, but the engine, transmission, drivetrain, all that stuff is like an old international. So it's easier for a guy like me to work on. It has no DEF and any of that crap, that modern crap. It's old school diesel. So I like that. But, you know, that being said, it's big and heavy, and, you know, it vibrates. And when I first got this thing, I went around, because I didn't know about this, you know, and I got on the forums, and some guys were talking about it. They were like, oh, hey, make sure whatever you do, let me get some more light on that. They were like, whatever you do, make sure you go around and you tighten all those bolts up, on the front end loader especially. And sure enough, they were absolutely right. Almost every one of these bolts right here were loose, all of them. All those were loose, and they're great big bolts. So you're probably going to have to, if you've got a big tractor like this, you're probably going to have to go out and buy a set of large wrenches so you can handle that. I think that's a 1 inch if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, there are big bolts like that all over this thing. And guess what? Almost every single one of them with the front end loader were loose as a goose. So what I did when I first got it home, carefully, one at a time, because I didn't want everything to come apart, but one at a time, I broke these out, pulled them out, put some red Loctite on there. And usually you only use red Loctite when you absolutely, positively have to do it. And so I did. I didn't want this thing coming apart, because when it does come apart and then you use the front end loader, it puts added stresses on focused points. So like if these three were loose and this one was tight, it'll focus all that energy to that one point, and it probably would break that ear right off the side of your case there. Okay, this is the tractor transmission case. So if you break that, you better know a really good welder, or you're going to be in for a big job, because you have to split the tractor apart to get that thing out of there. It's a really big job, and I'm sure that piece is really expensive, so you don't want that to happen. And I've seen another thing with these Mahindras, and it's probably common on all tractors, okay, that get used, is the wheels. People forget. And you know, it's always been good, never had a problem before. Why would I have a problem now? Well, just go along here and tighten all these up, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 times a season. I'm serious, man. If these things vibrate off and you're out in the middle of the field or in a really weird situation, I've seen the wheels on pictures. I've seen them fall off, and that can damage a lot of stuff. And it'd be a lot harder to put a back wheel back on than a front wheel. And I actually did last year. I had my very first flat tire. Thankfully, it was on the front. And you know, when you didn't grow up on a tractor, you don't think about it the same way. But after I thought about it for a little while, I was like, wait a minute, I don't even need a jack. I can just use that front end loader to raise, this thing will lift itself completely off the ground. The front tires, completely off the ground with just the front end loader, and it doesn't leak. So it'll hold there for a day or two until you take the tire home or whatever, take it to a tire repair shop. I ended up plugging that one myself, but it was the first time I'd ever had that happen. And it was scary, man, because I was like, oh, I could feel it in the steering. As soon as it went flat and it was starting to roll off the bead, I looked down and I'm like, something's not right. And I looked down, I thought my wheel was coming off because I'd read so much about it. But anyway, it turned out the tire was coming off the rim. And thankfully, I stopped it before that happened. Oh, and I didn't want to leave the tractor where it was. So what I did was I had the bucket relatively flat on the ground, maybe just a slight little bit of tilt, but enough to where I knew it wasn't going to dig in, right? And then I was able to back it up and get it back up into my little hiding spot where I was storing the tractor. That way nobody would be able to see it. But basically what I did was I used the bucket. I just pushed down and that raised that flat tire up off the ground just a little. And I was able to slowly drag that thing back and get it back into my spot. So every bolt and nut you see, tighten it up. And if you want to be extra careful about it, put some Loctite on it. So another thing, we're just going to go over this one quickly. Number 7, keep it greasy. This is not really so much a safety issue as it is a longevity issue for your tractor. You know, there's lots of grease zerks all over this thing. I mean, there's right here, just in this frame, I can see that one, 2 more right there, 4 more down there. I mean, they're all over the place, okay? So if you're gonna have a tractor like this, I don't have one yet, but I see a lot of guys switching over to the battery powered grease guns. It might be worth it because, yeah, you can wear yourself out with an old manual grease gun doing one of these things. But that's it. Keep it greasy and you'll have better luck overall. Your tractor will last you longer and it'll just work better. Okay, this one happened to me once. I don't have my ROPS up, but I'm sure you can use your imagination and you can imagine what it would be like if it was up. Now, when it's up, it's pinned, obviously, so it's made to not break over like that. But when you need to get into low clearances, you can fold that down and park it in your garage or whatever. Well, anyway, I had it up one time. I was over at the land doing some work and I went under this tree and I had to duck my head underneath it. And as I was going underneath it and raising my head back up, I suddenly felt this resistance. Well, what it was is there was a big old branch that got, you know, basically stuck on the top part of that ROPS. And as I was going forward, it was not only was it pushing back like this on the ROPS, but it was starting to lift my front wheels off the ground. Now I was quick about it and I realized exactly what I'd done. And I pushed the clutch in. As soon as I pushed the clutch in, it eased back, you know, and went back with the tree pressure. I didn't even break a big branch, but it was a great big old limb. It would have taken a lot to break it. It might have bent my roll bar or made me pop a wheelie or something. And I wasn't expecting that, obviously. So watch out when you have your ROPS up and you're driving around, watch out. Especially if you come from a riding lawnmower where it's easy to get away with that stuff. You can duck under branches all the time. But on this, you can only duck under what the ROPS can duck under. So just be aware of that because it happened to me. All right, next up here, trying to burn through these so we can get through the video quickly. Okay, so what is this, number 9? Loaded rear tires. We already talked about that. Mine has some sort of liquid in it. I can't remember what it is, but there's all sorts of stuff. Some people put beet juice in there. Apparently that's a really good thing because it's like non-toxic to the environment. So if you ever got a puncture, it wouldn't hurt anything. It would just put beet juice down. And there are services that will come around and not only change tractor tires at your property, but they will fill tires with beet juice and different fluids. You know, there's all sorts of different stuff. I can't remember what the name of that is, but it's basically, they fill it all the way up. I can set you down here. They fill it all the way up except for like maybe this much. And that's how much air is in the tire. And the rest of it's liquid. And of course, what that does is it gives you a vast amount of weight. I think water is 8 pounds a gallon and beet juice is even more than that. I can't remember what it is, but it adds a ton of weight. Now, I don't have beet juice. I have some sort of clear stuff in there. And it's a little bit salty. I can't remember what the name of it is, but that's what they used to use in the older days. I would love to one day get the beet juice just because I think it's better for the insides of your rims. Apparently some of that stuff they used to use would rust out your rims from the inside out, and those things are probably pretty expensive. Now, I don't have fluid in the front but you could get fluid in the front and it probably would help. But you'll notice my tractor has a really nice wide footprint. In fact, that's one of the reasons I had to go with the trailer that I went with, is that my footprint is so wide on this thing, it wouldn't fit on most trailers. I think I needed 80 inches, something like that, 79, 80 inches between the wheel wells just to be able to fit this thing. So if you're going out buying a trailer, just a side note, make sure your tractor is going to fit on it. So yeah, I think we already covered number 10. If you're doing like dirt work or anything with the front end loader, excuse me, you want to keep weight on that 3-point. So, put your brush hog on there, put a box blade on there, anything that adds some weight. And if you don't have that, you can make yourself like a carry-all type device, or you can make yourself a weight box that you hook up to it. And especially if you don't have fluid in your rear tires, you definitely want to get you something to put back there when you're doing dirt work. It'll just make it a lot better and a lot more planted, and you'll be more confident and more graceful in all your moves. So that was it for my main list, but I do have a couple of bonus tips here, and these are just more for keeping your tractor going for a long time. Not really a safety issue at all. It's just, if you want your tractor to last a long time, do these things. Don't run it out of fuel, okay? Don't run it out of fuel. Pay attention to your gauges when you're out there doing dirt work, doing tractor work of any kind. Keep watching your gauges. It's hard to do because, like I said, you kind of get into a automatic mode or cruise control. But remember to look down once in a while and check your gauges, your fuel gauge, because if you run it out of fuel, chances are there's some dirty stuff down in the bottom of your tank. Now all of a sudden that's in your filter, or maybe worse, in your injectors or your injector pump. So don't run the risk. Just don't run it out ever. Next up, watch your temperature gauge along the same lines, but remember to watch it, because this happened to me a time or two. I was out brush hogging away, okay, on the Mahindra here, just brush hogging my brains out. Let me turn it like this. So I was out just brush hogging like all day long, right? Well, suddenly something told me, hey, you need to look down. You hadn't looked at that temperature gauge in a while. And it was skyrocketed. It was all the way hot. Now, it wasn't boiling over or anything. I caught it before that happened. But basically what was going on was, while I was out brush hogging, I was kicking up a bunch of grass clippings. And all of those grass clippings got Velcroed right here to the front where the air goes in. And also, you can take this off. It's kind of a pain, so I'm not going to do it here. You have to fold this down and like lift the hood and move this. It's kind of a pain, but you can get this piece off, and then inside of there is a radiator. And guess what? It was totally clogged up with stuff too. So in my little side toolbox, I keep one of those little, like a dustpan type broom for sweeping up, a little small hand broom for sweeping up stuff after you're done sweeping it up with the big broom. Hopefully that's enough explanation of a hand broom. I don't know why I do that, but I over-explain stuff sometimes, so I'm sorry, but better to be thorough, I figure. Anyway, guys, that's my list. If you've been operating a tractor all your life, or you were born on one, why don't you come down there in the comments and tell me what I forgot or what I'm missing? Is my list a good list? Are these things going to keep people safe and keep their tractor running for a long time to come? That's what we're after, guys. Low maintenance. We want it to be as low a maintenance as we can possibly have and possibly get. We want it to be reliable, but most importantly, more so than any of that other stuff, we want it to be safe. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit me up in the comments. We'll continue the discussion. If you've got any pointers or tips for other people that are new to tractors, let us know. I'm sure they would appreciate it. And try to be cordial. Try not to be one of these people that's just always looking to burn somebody. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't bring you any good karma or any good vibes into your life. So that's the way I look at it anyway. Appreciate you tuning in. Until then, we'll see you next time.